let's dig right into this story, because you might have seen this on the cover of the Queen's Chronicle this week, and this kind of floated around. I saw it for the first time last week, and at our meeting at the Historical Society, our Wednesday meeting a couple of weeks back, when we had Raymond Burke come in, one of our regular attendees, Diane Friel, she was at the meeting, and she was one who brought this to our attention at the meeting, and she got up and spoke about it briefly, and this was about the efforts underway to basically make a historic district in Richmond Hill. And this is a really an interesting thing that they're doing, and I believe it was it was attempted once in the past, but a lot of people signed on to the petition, including myself. And if you haven't yet, you look for it out there, or we'll post a link to it later, because these kind of efforts to preserve in our communities definitely need to be supported. So it was front page news in the Chronicle this week, and I'm so pleased. Anytime anything historical can get on the front pages, it's always a good thing. And we're really happy to have joining us tonight a really lovely person who I'm sure if you've ever been to the and it's coming up soon, the Memorial Day Parade in Forest Hills, you've seen her walking around. The Richmond Hill Historical Society does a great job at that parade. They dress up, in the old costumes, and it's great to see. And this is the Vice President of the Richmond Hill Historical Society, Ms. Helen Day. Helen, how are you?
Hi, I am fine, Ed. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Oh, please, my pleasure. Now, will you be all dressed up and marching again this Memorial Day?
I certainly plan to be.
That's great. Now, what is that? Because you're all decked out. So what are you wearing this year?
Probably the same thing I wear every year. My blue dress, and all decked out in red, white, and blue.
That's great.
So, yes, we have to be patriotic and historical at the same time.
So
we try.
So now this is great to see you guys get this kind of splash and attention. And about this drive to make a historic district. Now, what parts? Because I think it's more than one section of Richmond Hill you're trying to do this to. Is that correct?
Yes, there was a survey, sort of a study, I guess you would call it, done last year, and it encompassed most of the northern part of Richmond Hill. Not everything. We can't do it all at once, but it still was a huge area that was looked at, and it really goes from about 104th Street on the west to Lefferts Boulevard, and then to, say, Park Lane South and 84th Avenue on the north and Jamaica Avenue on the south. So it's a huge area. It contains about 1,300 homes. And the study really pulled out what was the oldest, when were they built, what are the styles of the homes, and in some cases the actual architects who designed them.
Wow.
So the recommendation is that the whole thing not be, but 3 very large areas that still encompass over 500 homes, to be submitted to the Landmarks Preservation Commission, which will be done probably sometime this summer by the Historic Districts Council. And this has all been done through the grand assistance of our council member, Eric Ulrich, who provided funds for the study to be done. So this is a very professional level, very in-depth and beautifully produced report. And also he's provided additional funding this year for an application to be made to the National Register of Historic Places for Richmond Hill.
Nice.
Yeah, it is really, really nice. So in addition to that, we've been working to get a petition out there to make this known to the people in the community and the general neighborhood and the general area. And because of the petition that we've been circulating, not only on a hard copy but also on change.org, it has come to the attention of our local papers, and that's why we have this wonderful cover picture and article by Anthony O'Reilly. And there's also another article in the Queen's Tribune this week, too.
Right.
So the word is getting out there, and it's coming to the attention of the local press. And they're only too happy to take a look and see what we're doing. And there was even an interview with New York One.
Wow,
So,
okay, great.
Yeah, so that's out there too. And we've been focusing on getting people to sign the petition as backup material to go with an application that will be filed for it to the Landmarks Preservation Commission. It always looks good if you have a great study, but also to show that you have community support.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, I don't think the LPC is going to want to support something if they find out that a lot of people don't want it. That would be terrible. So we find that we've got hundreds and hundreds of people that are signing in support of this, which is very nice. And we are going to have a meeting at Holy Child in the auditorium on Monday, May 1st, to have the community come in and ask their questions and receive information. A packet of information is being prepared with a letter, some documentation, some frequently asked questions, which I think is the most important piece to answer those questions that homeowners might have about what it means to be in a historic district.
Well, that was going to be my question. What does it mean if you own a home and now you find your home is suddenly in a historic district? What does that mean to you?
Well, on a very simple level, it means that you have to apply to the Landmarks Preservation Commission if you want to make any changes to the exterior.
Okay.
So that's simply put, that's basically what happens. But there may be houses within a historic district, as I'm finding out, that may not actually be historic. I don't think they do like a cookie-cutter puzzle sort of piece that would say, okay, not this house, but the next house, not this house, but the next house. I think it could be something a little more general than that. So there are some houses there that the historic landmark wouldn't really apply to, but they might still have to file something, and the Landmarks Preservation Commission would just say, oh, okay, go ahead. So that there are a lot of ins and outs about it, but I think it's a great plus for the community because it will help to preserve the look of the town. And people are surprised when they come to Richmond Hill and they say, wow, I heard of Richmond Hill, but I never realized that it looked like this. It's a lovely
absolutely.
Victorian village, just like Woodhaven. There's lots of beautiful homes that are really attractive, and we want to keep the blocks looking like they do and not having changes that are really detrimental to the look of the neighborhood and to the historic fabric of the neighborhood.
That's so true because I tell you, you know, we drive through Richmond Hill a lot, and typically if we have to go down that way, we take Park Lane South, and then we'll head into Richmond Hill. We'll head south into Richmond Hill. And you know the beautiful houses that you see, one right after the other. It's impressive. But every once in a while, you know, we've seen a house that, you know, someone who's come in and done some remodeling or fixing it up, and it's just you cringe when you see what they've done to it. So you know, it's to prevent more of that loss of real unique character. You know, it's great to see this, and I'm glad that it's got so much support. When I first heard about it, I was concerned that homeowners would be, you know, kind of negative against it because there would be a lot of fear. But so far, from what it sounds like, you've got a lot of positive feedback from them.
Yes, we have, and I'm sure there will be questions, and that's why a community meeting is so important to provide the answers so that people are educated on the process. And this isn't going to happen tomorrow. It's a long, drawn-out process. I don't even know how long it might take from the time an application is put in, or just for the homeowners to be fully informed as to what's involved. And there are plenty of homeowners now that are looking and restoring their homes. And we see over the last couple of years, more people have come in to purchase a home, and they're fixing it up and doing restoration work, which is beautiful to see.
Now, in the chat room here, we have a question. Someone's asking, what happens if a house is torn down in a district? I get what they're saying here. So let's just say someone goes and makes changes or tears it down or does something awful, in a district where things are supposed to be protected. What happens? Are there fines? Is there punishment? So in other words, what if it gets protected and someone kind of basically disregards that? What happens?
I believe that there are fines involved. Hopefully it would never get to that point that if something like that were to be attempted, that there would be someone coming in to put a stop work order in place and to prevent that from happening in the first place.
Okay. So now this was attempted once before, is that correct?
Yes, it was. I was trying to think how far back. It was started by our late former president, Nancy Cataldi, and the board at the time. And it had to have been over 15 years ago, maybe even a little longer than that. But since we've only been around 20 years this year, it has to be within that time period. But it went on for a long time, like 10 years it dragged out. And we'd put in an application and we'd show what area we want to cover, and the LPC would come out and they'd look around and they'd say, well, we want you to make it a little smaller here, we want this not to be included or that, and the board did answer each one of those changes, and yet they still refused to follow through with a historic district. So I feel that this time we have a better shot because we have a really professional survey to back up the request, not just a map, and it's been done at a very professional level. And also, there are different people there now. Perhaps they have a better understanding of what we're trying to do. At least I hope so.
Now, in there, you mentioned Nancy Cataldi, because I tell you, I've heard so much about her, and I just started getting involved in things literally just at the time when she had passed away, and I never got to meet her. But everyone speaks so highly about her. Can you tell us just a little bit about her?
She was a true preservationist. Nothing would stop her. She would fight tooth and nail to get what she believed was needed for the community. And that's why the Historical Society was founded in the first place, and I think it was a push from Stanley Cogan, who was the Queen's historian at the time for the Queen's Historical Society. And so Nancy was really so involved in doing so many things for the neighborhood. So preservation and restoration, that was her focus. And she worked very hard at it.
It's a tremendous loss.
We have a tough legacy to follow. And
sure, yes, absolutely.
To stick with that and to honor her memory by continuing that, as hard as it may be, to keep going and to work to preserve the community for the future.
That's great. So now I have a note here from Diane saying that the Richmond Hill Historical Society, the next meeting is Friday, April 28th at the Leonard Center, which is corner of 86th Avenue, 112th Street, and your guest is Mr. Fred Stern, speaking on Remembering the World Fairs, 1939 and 1964.
Yes, that's right. I'm so excited to have this presentation. I had found out about Fred Stern from a comment that my brother-in-law made a few years ago saying, oh, yeah, I heard this guy. He has this great film, and I tucked his name on the side, and when the opportunity came up, I gave him a call. And he has a film that he has put together from newsreels and I guess personal films, perhaps, or family films. I don't know. I'm dying to see it. And it covers both World's Fairs. So it is a film. He's done some more editing on it to remove some redundancies and to make it a little bit shorter, but I think it runs about an hour, maybe a little less. And he's got some memorabilia, too. So we're really excited to have him come and show this. And it's something very dear to a lot of people's hearts, I think, looking back at the World's Fair from '64 that some of us might remember going to, and certainly from an older generation that told us stories about 1939.
That's great. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for calling in, and we covered a lot, a lot of areas. That was great. And again, I want to thank you for all you do, and we'll definitely be seeing you soon for sure at the parade. I'm looking forward to seeing you in that outfit again.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, take care.
All right, Helen, be well.
Bye-bye.
And that's Helen Day, Vice President of the Richmond Hill Historical Society.